Yeah, I really appreciate you reaching out to me. I don't know how you found me of all people, but I'm glad you did.
Everybody on my audience, welcome Dr. Stephen Glatt.
Hey, everybody. Hey, John. Nice to meet you.
You as well. We're doing this totally cold. Just showed up at his house like 15 minutes ago. Who is Dr. Stephen Glatt?
Well, I don't often identify as Dr. Stephen Glatt. I identify as Stephen Glatt. I'm a dad, I'm a husband, I'm a son, I'm a brother. Once I, take care of those things, then I think about myself as a scientist and a philosopher.
There's two options. Option one, you get to pick the topic.
Okay.
For a $26.20 donation to the Brain and Behavior Research Foundation.
Okay.
Or option two is I get to pick the topic, which is written on an index card in my pocket.
Well, the Brain and Behavior Research Foundation, also formerly known as NARSAT, has been very good to me in supporting my research over the years. So I'm going to ask you to pull a question from your pocket, but I'm still going to make the donation.
Here you go, mile 7.
All right. Fancy note card here. Why is it important to do brain research?
Like, I know a lot of people are probably mentally healthy and they don't really understand why they should fundraise.
These are real, biologically based illnesses, like a broken leg. And you can treat a broken leg and the outcome. And you could treat mental illness too, but not as well. So there are many people, believe it or not, who still think that mental illness is a choice. It's a personality style. They don't believe in these as biologically based brain disorders, which they are. They are, okay? I'll speak right to your audience. These are biologically based brain disorders. Just because we don't know exactly the biology underlying these disorders does not make them any less real of biological and medical disorders. And so we have to keep digging until we find the architecture under these disorders so that we can show to the world, yes, these are real disorders.
I think one of the most annoying and maybe also correct phrases is it's all in your head.
Oh yeah.
Because it probably is all in their head, but not in the way that it's being said.
That's right. Yeah, that's true. I guess that's true. I never thought about it that way. I mean, it is all in your head, but it's not manufactured. It's not a dream. It's real, but it's in your head. And you talk about mentally healthy people. Why do they have a stake in the game? Well, 1 in 5 people are going to be affected with a mental illness at some point in their life. I think it's more of a societal issue. It's not, your family has a problem and you guys deal with it.
Yeah.
Like, this is what populations should coalesce around. The major problems of our time: poverty, malnutrition, mental illness.
And that's where you come in, because your research deals with studying the root cause of mental illness.
Yeah, I think our lab is focused really on 4 parts. One is trying to find risk factors, and we focus a lot on genes, but in the background we know these are not genetic disorders. The question is, what parts are nature, what parts are nurture, and how do they interact? The second part is biomarkers. Like, we don't have good laboratory tests in psychiatry. Mm-hmm. We just have these kind of subjective rating scales.
Okay.
And without a solid laboratory test, people don't have a lot of faith in the diagnosis. Then I think it will help the field along and take some of the stigma away. The third aspect is what we call mechanisms. So if you know you have a risk factor or you have some biomarker for mental illness, that's important, but it doesn't give you the means to do anything about it. We have to understand how having a gene that puts you at risk for mental illness, what biology does it actually change to make the brain vulnerable? Your DNA eventually is translated into proteins. And when you change some DNA, you're going to change your proteins. And so we have to understand how changing a protein in a limited way changes the neurons, changes the brain to make it more likely to express anxiety or more likely to express depression.
So the DNA is like a recipe,
right?
And what is the RNA, right? Is the cook?
Yes, that's right.
And it's going to cook up a protein,
right?
And if it gets the wrong instructions, it's going to make a bad batch of stew.
Right. And certainly the environment is maybe the temperature control on the oven. You know,
I like it. You can burn your food.
that's right. You can burn it, you can undercook it, you have to have the right environment too. So the fourth thing we're studying really intensively now is what we call phenotypes. So genotypes, or your gene sequences, have presentations, and in psychiatry those are symptoms. And the way the current diagnostic system is set up is it's very compartmentalized. You either have this disorder or that disorder. But that's not natural. That's not the way biology really works.
Okay.
It's more continuous.
Yes.
You know, there's degrees of everything. There's degrees of anxiety. There's degrees of depression. So we're working in my lab on that as well to try and understand these.
I think that's cool.
Thanks. Thank you.
And I love the information you're throwing at the camera right now.
Thank you. Thanks.
We hit the mile.
All right. Awesome. We did it. Thank you.
Good job.
It helps coalesce my thoughts around these things and why I do this. You know, my own family's been affected with mental illness. And there's a woman here in Syracuse who was actually the founder of the Syracuse branch of NAMI named Betty Pringle. Hope Betty watches this. And I really hadn't spent a lot of time with patients before or their family members, but I met with Betty. She told me about her son, also named Steven, and his struggles with schizophrenia. She said the research gives people like her hope that someday people won't have to suffer with that. And then it became real for me. And so I started volunteering with NAMI, and my science took on more of a kind of an activist scientist role. And so I tell my students, my trainees, all about the personal connections that we have to this. Instead of just seeing this as some ivory tower exercise, this is the real stuff.
Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Thank you for all the research you do.
Hey, my pleasure. I'll always be doing it.
As part of it all, I dedicate this mile to you.
All right, mile 7.
Mile 7.
Done. Esclat, number 7.
The last question,
Okay.
I always ask my guests, what do they do for their mental health?
The most relaxing thing to help me de-stress is really if I am present with my family. If I can just, you know, I work very hard and I love my work and I would do it 24 hours a day, but I've come to learn over time that if you do that, you're going to get burned out. So there'll come a time in every day where I say enough is enough. I need to be present. I need to focus on my family, the kids, just get involved in their stuff, get into their heads, get into their world. And, you know, it gives me a lot of satisfaction to try and work with them to help them be more empathic, more understanding, and good little future citizens of the world. So that gives me a lot of peace.
Great. You heard it from Dr. Glad himself.
Be present, people.
Be here now. And for everybody back home, stay sharp. You should ask my wife. Would she be interested?
She might. You can ask her.
It would almost have to be now.
Yeah, of course.
That's a fun way of doing it.